Record-ology.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Record-ology. Okay, this is per your request. A lot of folks have asked to see a tour of my setup. Now, as you can imagine, I have a couple of different systems throughout the house. This is my main one. This is in my office, aka the record room, aka, you know, everything centered around a lot of projects that I'm working on. So this is not designed to be a super aesthetically pleasing system, but a functional one that I just listen to every single day. So we're going to take a look at the stack of components. We're going to look at the speakers. We're going to look at the turntables, and then some ancillary stuff I have as well. So I'd be curious to hear your input on these things and feedback. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I want to know down in the comments, tell me about your setup. There is a method to the madness, so let me bear with me as we go through this. So I want to start out with, I got these sort of separated by format. So right here you have two compact disc players. On the bottom here we have the Sony DVP-S7000, which dates back to 97. Now my main stack here is all nice, very 90s looking tech, because that's really where it's from, the 90s. And there's no exception with this one right here. So this is Sony's first DVD player. And you may be saying, well, why is that in your setup? I don't even use it as a DVD player. The DVP-S7000 has become sort of an audiophile CD player for people, and it can be pretty affordable if you get yours used like mine. This is $7 at a thrift store. I had no idea what it was before I got it, and researched it and found out, you know, it's quite a neat little unit here. So let me go ahead and power it on, and you can see what I'm talking about. It's a beast. It's deeper. In fact, if you look on the side here, it goes back further than the 5-disc player. That's why it's on the bottom. It's built like an absolute tank, and it is indestructible. So let's go ahead and power it on. These displays won't look as brilliant as they do to the naked eye due to the lighting. I'm going to turn down the lighting a little bit, actually. So it does have a fluorescent screen, touch screen controls for basic transport. It's got a headphone amplifier with a built-in volume knob. I don't know if I said this or not yet, but the reason why it's considered to be sort of this audiophile grade CD player is because it has a separate CD player or a separate laser mechanism for audio than it does for video. So let's go ahead and open the panel here. This is kind of a cool deal. Everything's metal, heavy duty. Everything's really heavy duty metal. This is pretty pricey when it first came out, and you know, still can come. Oh, that's where that CD went. Been looking for that thing. Do you ever do that? And yeah, it's just a great little unit. I don't have the remote, so I can't even do anything besides basic, play, pause, skip functionality. But it serves my purpose as well. It serves when I really want it. And if you look at the specs on it, obviously it's Dolby Digital. It has every CD format compatibility available at the time, including CD digital video and all kinds of cool stuff, CD text and everything like that. If you look at the specs, though, it still specs out better than other CD players on the market. So, oops, and I always get the open close button confused with the panel up and down. So that is my main CD player. But going up here, I've got another CD player. This kind of goes to one of those things where when I was growing up, I thought 5-disc changes were really cool, and I never had one. So again, I picked this up at a thrift store for like $7 to $10. It's a symphonic. It's cheap as dirt in terms of, it's not a Sony, but it works really good. I did buy the remote for this, so I have all the functionality. I love being able to instantly skip to whatever disc I want. I like having, the big tray come out, loaded up with different CDs. Here's some other ones that have been missing. Now the light, as you probably know, here shows up all kinds of dust that, you don't see to the naked eye. So if things look dusty, I apologize. It's really not that dirty. But it's a great functioning multi-disc player, and I like it. It's worked perfectly for me. I had to clean the mechanism, do a little bit of lubrication when I first got it, but that was about it. It does a great job, and I love having it. For those of you who've been around for a while, you'll know I love compact disc. It's one of my absolute top formats. I think it's a fantastic format. Okay, continuing up the stack here, we've got a couple more units. We got the MiniDisc Player. This is one that I did that quick video on. In fact, I'm using it right now to make a recording. This is the Sony MDS JE510. This was originally Fardamark's and worked out a trade for him. This is a great unit. I have had a little bit of difficulty with it. Like I mentioned in the video the other day, when you're recording, when you get to about 50 minutes in or so, it'll start wigging out and giving error messages and chopping things up into millions of little tracks. Some of the suggestions I've got so far is clean the lens, try new discs, all that stuff. I've done all of that, and I've even replaced the mechanisms, the transports, the read-write heads, so I know that it's a deeper level than that. It's got to be intrinsic to either the programming or the IC level of this unit. It's not a complete deal breaker, but anyway, it's a gorgeous unit. You know, not a lot of people had the decks. This one is a beautiful addition to my 90s stack here, as it were. I love the large display. It feels good. You know, stick a disc in there and it accepts it, pulls it in. You can record digitally or analog. So if you have the RCA cables hooked up to it, like I do now, you can set your level. If you're using an optical cable, like for instance the Sony we were just looking at, I have a optical cable going from that into this. You don't even need to set the level. It does it automatically. Complete lossless digital transfer. Of course, MiniDisc is a compressed format, A-Track 3 compression, so it's a lossy compression, but it's a very good one. It's a very, very efficient one at that. So it's a great little unit. It's beautiful. It only does the regular standard play. You can't do extended play on it, unfortunately, so you're stuck to the times on those discs. So when I like to record movie audio and stuff, I can't do it with this if I want to have it go over that regular disc limit of 74 minutes or 80 minutes or whatnot. Has a built-in headphone amplifier, all that good stuff. Now, have you noticed the main thing that a lot of people have that I don't yet? There's no receiver in any of this. I use powered speakers exclusively and a manual switch, which I'll show you in a minute. So here's my radio, my tuner. This is a Kenwood quartz synthesized. This is a KT89, super industrial. I mean, you could rack mount this thing. It is a very, very nice tuner. I don't listen to the tuner a lot, but I'm glad to have it. It also has switch power on the back, so I use it as a power relay, and it's a great little unit. I mean, it is what it is. You have to hook up your own antenna, but it does a great, great job. Okay, and here is my tape deck. This is my good tape deck. $10 from a garage sale. I love that. I love the fact that I didn't overpay for this thing. Oh, by the way, the tuner, I did that on a trade. The MiniDisc Player I did on a trade. 5-disc changer, like I said, $10 or so. The high-end disc player on the bottom, $7. This thing, $10. So as you can tell, I got great deals on all this stuff. It's mismatched brands. I don't care. It kind of looks the same. I like black tech over, brushed aluminum like Techmoan loves. I think those are cool, but I'm more into, this is, the 90s. This is my era, my coming of age when I really started to pay attention to technology. So these are the products that I like. So this is a dual deck machine. So it's a consumer entry level, but nice unit. It does Dolby B and C. It's got HX Pro, and we've talked about those technologies. It does a great job. Built-in headphone amplifier, and is a gorgeous unit. I've cleaned it out. I've maintained the heads, clean everything, lubricate everything. It's functioned flawlessly. The only thing is, I notice sometimes on this guy, I guess it would be nice if I turned it on, is when I'm recording a signal, the left channel seems to go about one stop on the VU meter below the right channel. Not all the time. It's imperceivable, so I don't know if it's just a metering thing. Also, the gauge or the display is a little bit dim. Let me turn off the overhead lights, and you'll be able to see it better. Let me turn these lights down too. There you go. See, I'm looking at stuff in this kind of lighting. Not quite dark, but dimmer. Let's see if I can dim this. Nah, I can't. So I don't get that glaring headlight look, so it doesn't look, you know what I mean? It looks better to me is what I'm telling you. It doesn't, and that's one reason why I've kind of hesitated to doing this show, is that it doesn't look super attractive to the eye. It's a functional system. Okay, moving on up, we have the RCA Victor J2 45J, excuse me. The RCA Victor 45J. Again, this was a gift from Fardamark, and he rebuilt this He put in a magnetic. It's got an AT3600L cartridge. Because it has a magnetic cartridge, it needs a preamp. So I've got the Sony P10 preamp. It's a very, very basic but functional preamp there. And I'll plug this into the back of the switch power on the tuner when I want to use it. It's a great little unit. Absolutely great. Now let's look at my switch. Okay, so here it is, my very basic switch. This has been in my family for probably 25 years. I think it was my brother's. He used it to switch video game inputs. In fact, up until recently, it had all his labels on it still. So it's only a 4-input switch, and as you can tell, I have more than 4 systems. So how do I manage that? I've grouped them. So each one of these inputs has left and right RCA, composite, then it has component inputs. So I use groupings of the RCA inputs to switch. So every time I go to CD, it'll switch to both CD players, either one of them that are on. Tape player is the cassette deck or the MiniDisc player. Vinyl are the 2 record players. And then radio is whatever else I have connected to it. And I'll switch it out from time to time. It's not as ideal as a very slick, amplifier, receiver setup, but I don't need that because of the way my setup works. I don't need to pump, 100 watts of amplified current out of a system. And then I've got combined outputs there, those blue adapter cables that allow the multiple inputs to be, reconnected back into one. The only problem I've had with this setup is I think I might have blown out the preamp on my first LP3 because I had 2 turntable outputs connected to them. And the LP3 is in a constant on state, so you can walk up to it and touch the stylus and you'll hear it because it's always on. It's always on and amplified. So unless you have a switched power preamp, you're outputting that voltage. So that's not an ideal situation. That's one reason why I keep 2 sets of speakers. And speaking of speakers, let's go over to that side. Okay, so here is a lot of stuff. We have the speakers. I have the PreSonus Eris 4.5s on top. Those are the speakers that the switch is connected to. They're the best speakers, so I want to hear the best. They've got, bass treble trim pots on the back. They're Bluetooth enabled. They have a manual input on the front, which is what I use for my 8-track, which we'll look at in a minute here. On the bottom, I have the Crosley, I think they're S100s. I've said that a million times. I should know by now. So that would be a separate set for the other turntable if I want to make sure that they're not backing into each other in terms of voltage. You do see my Samsung Galaxy Tab A there. It's amazing that thing is just slow as snot now. It's got, I don't know a version of Android on it, but it has just gotten slower and slower and slower. So I use that as a digital media server for different things. It's assisting with the recordings I'm working on right now. I can load files onto it and from there use it to record onto other things as well. I've got the Pluto 2 preamp is connected to the I always say that. What is this thing? LP3 turntable. So I got that back in here. The changer's in the other room. Okay, let's look at the LP7 a little closer. So here is the LP7. If I've been calling this a J7, you're gonna have to forgive me. I don't know why I started doing that. That's really bizarre. The preamp I've got down here is the IFI preamp we reviewed recently. I've got that dedicated to the LP7. It's weird because it's the only preamp I've ever owned that has a switch on it, so I have to remember to turn this thing on. Sometimes I'll be spinning the record, I'll be like, where the heck is the sound? And I realize I have to turn the preamp on. So anyway, it's a beautiful turntable. I mean, it's the best one I have. And it's funny when I mention, or as other people mention, they'll be like, yeah, it's a good budget turntable. But to me, it's like, good Lord, $800 turntable. Yeah, I never thought I would own that. So, all right, let's look at the one last part that we haven't shown, which is my 8-track, Blu-ray, and VHS. Okay, and here is the last bit. So on the bottom, I've got a $10 thrift store Panasonic OmniVision VHS player. It's stereo. It has 4 head. And above that, I've got my Samsung Blu-ray disc player. Obviously, it does every disc format. It's a great, great machine. It upscales DVD beautifully. I've got a little TV. I'm not going to show it, but I got a little 20-inch TV above the 8-track player. And then the 8-track player is the sound design. It's a very basic unit. We've done videos on almost everything you've seen today in this setup. So if you want to learn more, just search for individual things there. But this works great. It only it's got a built-in amplifier, so you connect speakers to the back of it, which, as I said, I don't do it that way. I use the line level input to the powered speakers that have their own amplifiers. So for this, I use the headphone output, which is why I have the adapter on the left, and then I run a cable to the input on the PreSonus ARS 4.5s. And then I got to make sure that the volume is set where it is so it outputs the equivalent of a line level input. So sort of a convoluted setup, I know. It's definitely a function over, what do they say? It works good more than it looks good. But I'm telling you, with the lights down low and you know, this thing not blaring on it, things actually look pretty dang good. But yeah, that's my listener to set up. That's what I use every single day. I listen to music in here every single day. This is the equipment we use on the show. This is what's powering behind the scenes when we're doing sound tests and whatnot. And it's all equipment we've reviewed, and or most of it is. We've reviewed almost everything on here, but I've been able to get killer prices on so many of these things because, you know, I keep an eye out at thrift stores. Oh yeah, this was $10. It was a Craigslist deal. When I bought the Electra, was it the Electra? I forget what no, it wasn't that. It was something else we bought. I think it was a Sesame Street record player. When we bought the Sesame Street record player, and someday we'll do my portables collection because I have an ungodly amount of portables. But these are just the component systems. He offered this on top of it for 10 more bucks. I'm like, heck yeah, let's do it. Because you guys have been saying, you got to get into 8-track. You got to get into 8-track. And I had no emotional tie to it, unlike, you know, everything else that I've, you know, have here. I had nothing, you know, no memories about it or anything. So it was completely new, but it was also kind of exciting that way as well. So I've learned a lot. This is very basic. You can't record or anything. It's a very basic unit, but it works. It's functional. It's solid and all that good stuff. So, all right, guys, enough about me. Tell me about you, what your setup is down below. Do you have any of these pieces in your collection? Are there things that you want to add to your stack? I'd say mine is pretty well done. I've got every format that I need, unless I decide to add a Tefifon to the mix, which I really, really don't think I need that. The outliers for me were the 8-track and the MiniDisc. I didn't really even need those. It's just kind of wants on top of it. So, all right, guys, that's going to do it for today. Thank you so much for humoring me. I hope this was interesting. For those of you that have been asking for it, I hope I delivered what you were looking to see. And thank you guys so much. God bless each and every one of you. But we will see you tomorrow.